Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to AmeriCorps VISTA. We are very excited to be with you as you start your service, and I am glad to have you all joining this webinar today. We just want to start with a reminder that there are frequently asked questions on the impact of coronavirus on the VISTA program, and those are posted at nationalservice.gov/coronavirus. We will continually update these as we move forward. We know that there are VISTAs online today from all over the country, and your personal and VISTA project schedules will vary. We will continue to monitor the national situation and update you and your supervisors as necessary. If you have not already, please be sure that the email address that you have in the My AmeriCorps portal is up to date. That is the email address that we will be using for all of our official AmeriCorps VISTA and CNCS correspondence. Please know that we are very grateful for your service and want to help orient you to VISTA as fully as possible on today's webinar. Let's get started. My name is Khadija Carr, and I am joined here with Eric Powell.
Hello, yes, I'm Eric Powell, and Khadija and I will both be your hosts today from AmeriCorps VISTA. You will also see our colleagues Kyle Banker, Gina Viner, and Chris Hawks in the chat and Q&A, and all of our staff and webinar support team will be monitoring the chat and the Q&A to help you throughout the presentation. In looking at today's agenda, we're going to talk a bit about how VISTA began in the 1960s. We'll cover a few key pieces of your orientation phases. We'll discuss your service assignments, review some resources, and we'll officially swear you into federal VISTA service. Here are our objectives for today's presentation as we go throughout our agenda today. First and foremost, we have asked you to log on again today to continue to build connections between our VISTA headquarters staff and you, and we'll swear you in officially in just a few minutes. We also know that this webinar is a great way for you to meet other new VISTA members and start to build connections with colleagues across the country. We'll take time today to reinforce some of the important details of your VISTA service. And finally, we want you to leave today's webinar with a really good sense of where to find more answers to questions that you may have. Khadija, want to kick us off?
Absolutely, Eric. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you officially to VISTA, and I wish you a very, very happy first day of service. Let's take a look at a few milestones in VISTA's history that led us to this very moment. VISTA is at its core a program that expands economic opportunity to help Americans escape poverty. And as complex as poverty is, we know that it takes a wide variety of strategies and dedicated community members to really fight this issue. I look forward to hearing about how you and your VISTA project will work on expanding economic opportunity in your community. VISTA was born out of the civil rights movement and the war on poverty in the mid-1960s, and we remain passionate about the ideals that founded the program and committed to keeping and lifting up all of the communities in this country. Our first VISTAs were assigned in 1965, and they served in Appalachia, Hartford, Connecticut, and the camps of migrant farm workers in California. And at that VISTA program launch, President Lyndon Johnson said to those first VISTAs, "The initials of your organization spell VISTA. It is an appropriate name, for you will be opening up new vistas of hope for the poor, achievement for yourself, and greatness for your nation." The dedication of VISTA members remains a great hope for this country. We know that VISTA alone can't fix the systemic barriers and oppression that exists for poor people, especially for people of color. But we do know that our work can be a part of any possible solution to eradicating poverty. So here you see the VISTA program structure. You might recognize it from last week's webinar. You can see the CNCS headquarters is there on the far left, and with the CNCS regional offices up next to it. In those regional offices, CNCS awards VISTA projects to sponsoring organizations. And these are nonprofits that tackle poverty in a variety of projects and diverse communities. Within that organizational structure, VISTA members, project staff, sponsors, and CNCS staff work together to accomplish these types of results. And in the last year, VISTAs raised over $194 million in cash and in-kind donations for their sponsoring organizations. VISTAs also recruited, trained, and assigned over 700,000 community volunteers who collectively served more than 7.5 million hours. VISTA members made it possible for their sponsors to serve 2.4 million children living in poverty in after-school programs, tutoring, and assistance in food security. Programs supported by VISTA members engaged 14,000 veterans and military families in service. And in a single year, over 8,000 VISTA members built the capacity of more than 4,500 nonprofit and public agencies. And what I've just shared is really just a snapshot of 1 year of VISTA service. We are super proud to be supporting this work all around the country, and thank you for joining that effort. Let's take a look now at the sponsoring organizations. In the last year, there were 832 sponsoring organizations, and they managed 849 VISTA projects. Together, the sponsors and project staff placed VISTA members at over 5,000 service sites in 1 year. Of all VISTA service sites in general, about 15% of those represent rural communities, and about 85% represent urban communities. It's very important to know that there are different types of VISTA project structures. Some projects place all of their VISTA members at a single nonprofit, for example, and these are called single site projects. By contrast, there are about 16% of projects that place VISTA members at multiple sites or offices. We do have one more model, and that is called an intermediary. And this is an organization that manages all of the administrative aspects of the VISTA award and subcontracts with more than one nonprofit organization to recruit, train, and manage VISTA members at multiple locations. The project models are really important because they have a huge impact on every aspect of your VISTA service. I do want to, at this point, get a sense of the types of projects that are represented today. So I have a chat question for you all, or actually a poll rather. You should see that coming up on your screen anytime now. And the question is, are you serving in a single site project, a multi-site project, or through an intermediary? So go ahead and fill that out. We'll leave that up for just a moment. Eric, any guesses on where you think the bulk of folks might fall?
I have a sneaking suspicion most are going to fall under multi-site. That's just, I don't know, number 2 sounds good to me. How about you?
Number 2, okay. I think I'm going to vote with single site this time. I think I'll vote there. And I think we should see which of us, if any, are correct. I think we're ready for those poll results. And looks like I have beat you. It looks like about 50% are serving at single site projects, with about 23% of you at multi-site projects, 13% intermediary, and about 14% of you who at this point are a bit unsure. And that's totally okay, right? You may not know the answers to this question, but if not, I would suggest that you add this question to the list of questions that you have for your supervisor this week, and really make sure that you're completely aware of the project design, the way your staffing is structured at your organization, and also any organizational requirements as well.
As you know, and probably part of the reason why you joined VISTA, VISTA's mission is to strengthen organizations that alleviate poverty through the mobilization of volunteers and resources. And of course, supporting this mission, there are 4 key program principles that apply to all VISTA service. Ending poverty. Every VISTA project and every VISTA member aims to end or alleviate poverty one person, one family, or one neighborhood at a time. Empowering communities. VISTA members live among and involve community members in planning and carrying out their projects. This is often facilitated by VISTA project sponsors, and we will all work together to strengthen and improve the communities. This is the VISTA program's long-term goal through learning about values and beliefs and applying good community development principles. Creating sustainable solutions. Whatever you develop or create, it might be a process, a system, or other types of resources, you will develop them in such a way that people will be able to use them once your VISTA service ends. Building capacity. All VISTA members will increase the size of a project, increase the number of people served, improve the project's efficiency, or improve the project's impact on the community. These are ways that we define capacity and how we think about evaluating the success of our projects and our VISTA members. So let's take a few minutes now to hear from you. In the chat, go ahead and answer these questions. Which of the key principles resonates most deeply with you and why? Maybe it's ending poverty. Before the session started, many of you said that you joined VISTA because you wanted to help people move out of poverty. Maybe it's empowering the community as a passion of yours through working with community stakeholders to identify needs and putting those needs into action with the help and support of the community. Some of you may want sustainability and feel that that drew you to being a VISTA member. You may have an eye for processes and developing them in such a way that they can be used once your VISTA service year is over. Or capacity building could be at the heart of who you are and what you do. Maybe you see a project and you can really identify a plan to increase its effectiveness and engage more people. And based on the responses, a lot of different answers. Most recently, I see a lot of people talking about empowering communities, and it's important to get the community involved in the project so they can take it over. And I see a lot of people talking about sustainability, mentioning it's really important to think about long-term, not just during the year of VISTA, but why it's so critical to think about what impact you're making now will have a lasting impact for the project. Still a lot of responses coming in, empowering communities, building capacity, and there's no wrong answer. This is a good activity just to see what's at the heart of who you are and why you joined VISTA and what really resonates with you that you can use now during this webinar, but also in the future during your year of service. The good thing is that all of these are important and all of them are useful. And hopefully as you look at what you will be doing as a VISTA, you'll be able to pinpoint activities that touch on some or all of these 4 key principles. We know that progress in this type of work can be incremental and it can sometimes feel like it is very slow going. It's important to know that our work is not just about fixing stuff. It's about sharing perspectives and skills. The results of your work as a VISTA member may not be apparent immediately, but once you step back, you'll be able to see the larger changes that have resulted from your work and the impact of your service. Next, let's focus now on capacity building and what it looks like. Capacity building can be a hard concept to define and describe to others, and it's extremely important that we all share a common understanding of this key principle. In the VISTA mission and program tutorial that you completed, you learned that your VISTA service should focus on building the capacity of your organization and not focus on performing direct service. This is a unique aspect of the VISTA program which sets us apart from other AmeriCorps programs. Quickly, capacity building in essence is about helping your organization do more with what they have so they can serve more people or operate more efficiently. Direct service is about providing tangible assistance directly to those who need it. So to make sure that you understand and have a good feel for what we're talking about, we're going to play a quick round of this or that to explore the differences between capacity building and direct service. For this activity, you can type your answer in the chat and feel free to abbreviate to make it quicker, typing CB for capacity building or DS for direct service. Let's go ahead with the first one.
All right, first things up, recruiting volunteers to build houses. In the chat, please indicate whether you think this activity is capacity building or direct service. And as Eric mentioned, you can use CB or DS. All right, let's see what folks are saying here. Oh, wow, we are all over here. Lots of CB though. I see a few DS voters, and then a few people that think that maybe it could be both capacity building and direct service. All right, I think I'm still seeing the bulk of folks answering that it's capacity building with a little sprinkling of direct service. Let's go ahead and reveal that correct answer, which is capacity building. And that is because in this specific scenario, you're not directly building that house, right? You are developing capacity, and you're doing that by recruiting volunteers who will then be able to actually do the construction work as well as engage with the organization in other ways.
The next one is delivering meals to seniors or people with disabilities in their homes. Do you think this is capacity building or direct service? And I see people are very quick to answer this one. Maybe they just want me to stop talking. But I see a lot of DS for direct service. I saw one or two capacity building. A lot more responses are coming in saying they think this is a direct service. Seems like everyone's trying to get their answer in. It's good responses coming in. Wait just another second or two to see if there's any other additional comments. Well, let's go ahead now because it looks like most people are about done responding, and the correct answer is direct service. Because as I'm sure you probably figured out in this example, you would actually be picking up food and delivering it to the people. In contrast, capacity building activities that VISTA members would do would be working to improve a senior meal delivery program, putting together policies and procedures, or developing partnerships to help with food delivery.
All right, let's try for another one. And this one is teaching a financial literacy course to low-income individuals. What do you all say? Capacity building or direct service? Okay, so it's looking like direct service is the main attraction here. I did see one capacity building. All right, continuing to see that. I see someone that said capacity building would be creating a curriculum and not actually teaching. So there's some additional details there that would change it from one thing to the other. I love these explanations I'm seeing. I see both. I see capacity building, direct service. It sounds like you all are starting to kind of formulate the ways that an activity could be changed from capacity building to direct service or vice versa. And that is certainly a good sign that you all are doing your homework. Let's go ahead and reveal that answer. And that is direct service. And this is because this example involves hands-on educating individuals. In contrast, as some of you mentioned, capacity buildings that a VISTA would do would include things like developing a curriculum for that financial literacy course, or maybe connecting with other organizations who can refer clients to take the course, or even identifying a financial literacy expert to advise on the development of the curriculum.
We've come to our last example. So what do you think about this one? Organizing a fundraiser, CB or DS? If you were organizing a fundraiser as a VISTA, Would it be capacity building or a direct service? See, another person commented both. Quite a few CB capacity building coming in. Looks like a lot of people have given this thought, or maybe they've already organized fundraisers and know the answer. See a lot more capacity building coming in. One mention of direct service and how this could be direct service. Both leaning more towards capacity building. These are some good responses. And like you said, Khadija, really good comments coming in as well. See a few more capacity building coming in. And let's see what Simon says the answer is. The correct answer is capacity building. Great job. Because the act of raising resources is specifically building capacity. The money raised builds the resources of the organization so it can do its work. So thank you all very much for participating in this activity and responding on those scenarios. We do really hope that this quick and very simple exercise provides a clear distinction between capacity building work that VISTAs do and direct service.
Let's take a look back at our agenda. So far, we've reviewed some of the important aspects of the VISTA program to really build out your understanding and your ability to answer the "what is VISTA?" question, right? Next, we will quickly review several key tasks that you will need to complete during your VISTA member orientation. So here's just another look at the structure of your VISTA member orientation, or VMO as we like to call it. And as we discussed last week in the Countdown to VISTA Service webinar, there are 3 phases of your VISTA member orientation. And whether you are physically on site or teleserving, the structure will remain the same. As a reminder, this structure is also reflected in the VISTA member orientation checklist that you received via email. And it's in the helpful links document specifically. You can also find a link to the checklist in the chat now. Thank you so much to our colleagues at LSI for getting that in there for us. Also, as a reminder, you were invited to participate in an online name-based criminal history background check prior to your start of service. If for some reason you have not yet submitted the required information for the background check, and/or you did, and maybe you didn't receive the email notification with instructions to complete the background check, please email vistafingerprint@cns.gov immediately. The online background check process will be replacing the previous process of submitting fingerprint cards, which are currently not required. So again, that email is vistafingerprint@cns.gov. And just as kind of a refresher from last week's webinar, we have a couple of review questions regarding benefits. In just a second here, you should see a poll open on your screen. And in that poll, you can indicate true or false. This is a really quick poll. And the question is here, federal taxes are withheld from your living allowance, but state taxes are not. Go ahead and respond to that quick poll just to give us a sense of what your understanding is, true or false to that question. I'm gonna leave that up for just a few more seconds here so that folks can get their responses in. I know there are quite a lot of you on this webinar today, so we'll just leave it open for one more moment so that you can get your response in before we reveal the results. All right, looks like the majority of you all said true, and that is correct. If you answered true to the question, are federal taxes withheld from your living allowance, but state taxes are not? That is the correct answer, true. State taxes are not withheld from your living allowance. All right, we've got a couple more for you.
So with this one in the chat, please make sure you send your response to all panelists and attendees. And the question is, if you originally elect the education award, you may change to the cash stipend at any time before the end of your blank month of service. I see a lot of responses coming in saying 10, 10th month. I guess there's multiple ways of saying 10. I only know it in Spanish and Italian, but there could be lots of other languages that I don't know. But I see a lot of people commenting the response is 10. I thought I saw one non-10 response, X. Oh yeah, Roman numeral. That's true. See, all of you know a lot more than I do about the number 10. So let's move to the answer. The correct answer is 10. The 10th before the end of your 10th month of service. That is correct. We've got one more for you.
All right, this one is going to be a yes or no. And the question is, if you currently have or have completed enrollment in other primary healthcare coverage outside of VISTA, the healthcare allowance is for you. Go ahead and indicate yes or no. You should see that poll come up on your screen there. And go ahead and respond to that question. Again, this will be a really quick poll. We just want to get a quick sense of where folks are in their understanding of some of these major benefits to you. Alrighty, looks like 80% of you voted yes, that if you currently have primary health coverage outside of VISTA, then the healthcare allowance is for you, and that is correct. So if you voted yes, then you are absolutely correct. And if you voted no, we will be sure to share some additional information to clarify that understanding for you. Thank you so much for your responses. It's very helpful for us to be able to get a quick pulse check of where folks are in their understanding. Let's take a minute now to talk about some important issues that you learned about in the Civil Rights and Responsibilities course on the VISTA campus. The VISTA program takes very seriously the issues of discrimination and harassment. So we want to make sure that you're all aware of what your rights are, as well as your responsibilities as a VISTA. As you learned in the course, discrimination is when receiving treatment that is different because of a difference in sex, race, or any other protected class. Harassment is behavior that is severe or pervasive and creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive environment. If you believe that you have experienced or witnessed discrimination or harassment, and if you feel safe and comfortable doing so, here are the steps that you should take. Approach and talk directly to the person you suspect of engaging in harassing or discriminating behavior. If that does not work, or if you don't feel safe or comfortable doing so, you should talk to your VISTA supervisor. If you cannot go to your VISTA supervisor, or you do and the matter is not resolved to your satisfaction, you should then contact your CNCS state or regional office. And finally, you can contact the CNCS Equal Opportunity Program, or EOP. It's important to understand and remember that rights go hand in hand with responsibilities. So while you have the right to a service experience that is free from harassment and discrimination, you also have the responsibility not to subject anyone to harassment or discrimination. So please be conscious of how your words and your actions might be perceived by others, whether they be fellow VISTAs, staff at your site, or community members. And as a reminder, the contact information that you see on the slide is included in the handout for this session that you were sent via email. You'll also see that the same information is included in the member handbook located on the VISTA campus. AmeriCorps VISTA is a federal program, and like anything supported by taxpayer funds, we need to ensure that the program is well run, doing what it's supposed to do, and also spending money wisely. Like all federal agencies, CNCS has what's called an inspector general, and in that office, they are responsible for preventing and detecting waste, fraud, and abuse. I'll say that most VISTA sponsors are familiar with these rules and around really what's allowable service activities and those that are prohibited. And it's important for all of us to really pay close attention to these. There are a few red flags that I want you all to be aware of. And it's also important that you keep these in mind as you go throughout your VISTA service as well. The first is if you are being asked to take over the work of a staff person, let's say someone is out on an extended leave, that would be considered replacing staff and is not allowable. Or maybe if most of what you're doing is, let's say, administrative support for someone else, that's also not appropriate work for a VISTA member. You should really be focusing on the things that are outlined in your VISTA assignment description, which ties directly to the overall project plan that was approved by CNCS. And finally, the majority of the work you should be doing is capacity building and not direct service. So from your coursework and from today's activities, you should have a good idea of how to distinguish these two activities. So please pay close attention and follow up if you are unsure about your service assignments. If you feel like you're being asked to do things that are not appropriate for VISTA members, first talk about it with your supervisor. From there, you can talk with your CNCS state or regional office. And if the issue isn't resolved, or if you want to remain anonymous, then you can contact the CNCS Office of Inspector General with the information that you see here on the slide.
Now, let's take another look at the in-service phase of your VISTA member orientation. Today, your first day of service, you are starting your on-site orientation and training, or OSAT as we like to call it, which is led by your supervisor and your project site. Also, there are 7 courses that we ask all VISTAs to complete early in their service. They are self-directed and they are intended to help you start strong in your VISTA project. First, there's a guide to help you make the most of your on-site orientation and training. The minute intro exercise really helps you to clearly and succinctly explain to others who you are and what you are doing as a VISTA member. The resource on theories of change looks at various ideas about what causes poverty and theories on how to reduce or eliminate it. And there's also a great video explaining how poverty is measured in the United States. There's a worksheet to help you unpack your VISTA Assignment Description, or VAD, and use it as the foundation for your work plan for the year of your service. The early service coursework includes a tutorial on how to understand the community you are serving by looking at demographic data and research. And finally, there's a powerful video that shares 13 lessons about poverty that came out of the VISTA program. The worksheets and resources really dovetail nicely with your on-site orientation and training, and they can provide structure for the first few meetings with your VISTA supervisor. So let's turn our attention now to your specific service and the document that rules it all, your VISTA Assignment Description. As we discussed on last week's webinar, each member has a VAD that was created by the VISTA project. You might have received it during the interview and selection process, or perhaps your VISTA supervisor gave it to you today. And if not, or if you can't find it, you can download your VAD from your account in the My AmeriCorps portal. All VADs include these 3 elements: a project goal, objectives, and member activities. The project goal is related to or identical to the overall goal of your VISTA project. The objectives describe what you will achieve by the end of your service year. They are a bridge between the project goal and the member activities. And the member activities specify what you will be doing this year. Those activities add up to the objectives, and the objectives add up to the goal. Because the VISTA Assignment Description is the starting point for you to develop your work plan for the year, we strongly recommend that you focus on it with your supervisor in the next few weeks, and keep it in mind as you move throughout your year of service. It's not uncommon that adjustments need to be made to VADs at some point during the year to reflect new activities, which can be especially true given the current situation with coronavirus impacting so many parts of our lives. As we mentioned earlier, there's a VAD worksheet that is part of your early service coursework on the Starting VISTA page of the VISTA campus. This worksheet provides a nice framework for you and for your supervisors so that the two of you can discuss your next steps and tasks together.
All right, we would love to hear from you again. And the question here is, based on what you know about your VISTA assignment description, what will you be doing as a VISTA? What steps, tasks, or activities will you be doing to help eradicate poverty and build capacity rather, in your community and also in your organization? Again, you can type your answer in the chat and be sure that you select to all panelists and attendees so that everyone has the benefit of seeing your responses. And this can be a couple of words or a brief sentence if you'd like. All right, so let's see what folks are saying here. So I see helping with a website and social media to promote activities that will benefit community members, capacity building for volunteer programs, managing volunteers, working with school children, supporting first-generation students. Excellent. Creating a refugee youth mentoring program, connecting students to wraparound services, economic opportunity, working with youth in education, promoting STEM, promoting career exploration. Let's see, conducting outreach activities for volunteers, editing volunteer sections of your organization's website. Very nice, very nice. Let's see what else we've got here. Recruiting volunteers, again, I'm seeing lots of that, lots of working with social media and marketing. I see working with Native communities and K through 12 educational opportunities. Working with reentry individuals. Let's see, volunteer recruitment, again, that's a popular one today. Connecting with elementary school students and developing literacy programs. I see a few ones that are really specific to the current circumstances and working to aid folks that are impacted by COVID-19 and working on some contact tracing and things of that nature. Improving college access, all very good things there. Wow, this is quite a range of activities. This is really remarkable just to see how much ground is covering, and I'm feeling like this is going to be a very good year ahead for you all and also for our country. Yeah, there were a lot of really wonderful things in there, Eric, mentioned in that chat. Let's take this discussion, I think, a little bit further and talk about what really happens as a result of VISTA service, right? What if you plan a community meeting? If you bring people together around a common issue, what really is the impact of that activity?
And many of you talked about grant writing. What if you write grants? How will writing a grant actually make a difference in your community?
And another popular one was recruiting volunteers, right? So what if you do recruit volunteers for your projects? Why specifically is it important to have other people help with that project?
And what if you write a lesson plan or put together a curriculum? What purpose does this lesson plan specifically achieve, and how will it impact others within your community? So really the big question we're asking is, what if? And we ask this because we want you to reflect on why you are serving. Taking time to think about the reason behind your activities and the purpose of the things you're doing will help you understand and stay focused on the intended impact of your VISTA service. Think about your own what if when answering this next question. What impact do you hope to make as a VISTA member? And by impact, we mean what will be the end result rather than what will your activities look like. What will happen in your community when you are successful? And you want to keep thinking about this question as you go into your year of service. Our work is never done, and you are part of the battle against poverty. And we are all in this together. So keeping the impact you can make in mind may help you get through tough times when you feel that you may not be making a difference. And I see quite a few responses coming in. Some of the impact is pulling kids out of poverty. The organization is better suited to serve elderly homeless people. Increasing access to mental health, and now they're scrolling so quickly it's hard to read. Assist in the long-term retainment of volunteers. More access to jobs and education, which is huge in many communities around the country. Better relationships between youth and police. A lot of you are getting into the real impact. What impact will your service make in the community? Helping girls from under-resourced communities improve their education. A lot of these are focused on youth, which is great. Students will have a better access and more access to knowledge and skills in their area for improving the community's overall well-being. And I'll just read two more. Improved overall health and wellness for the community, better access to food and health programs. And I also see the organization is connected to more members of the community, bringing more people together to ultimately fight poverty, which of course is what the VISTA program is about. These are great to read, and hopefully all of you are also finding these very impactful. And please keep the responses coming. These impact statements are so inspiring for myself, for Khadija, for you as well. And hopefully they're helpful for you to see the comments from your colleagues all over the country.
All right, we've been talking for quite a bit, so we're going to take another look at the agenda just to see where we are within it. And with all of those really great outcomes and activities and projects and communities in mind, I think it's just about time we take the oath of service and make you all officially VISTA members. You may remember from the introductions in last week's Countdown to VISTA Service webinar that we are all located in different communities. Eric and I are working at home in Washington, D.C. and in Silver Spring, Maryland. And here's just a quick look at where you all are serving all around the country. Just imagine with us, if you will, that all of these VISTA logos are faces, right, on the screen, and that all of you will really be taking the oath together. I do want to discuss the oath of service with you all before we take it as well. So this oath of service is a required and important step in becoming a VISTA member. And because of the importance of this step in your service, we are going to pause the chat so that we can really focus our attention here. If you have any questions at this time, you can go ahead and type them into the Q&A, and our team will either answer them as soon as they can or they'll hold them for the end of the webinar.
To document that you are taking your oath today, there's a very short form in the My AmeriCorps portal. It's good to know that this is a quick process, and we have a few important instructions to help you complete the oath form accurately. First, once we end today's webinar, you will receive an automated email stating that your electronic oath has been unlocked in my.americorps.gov. At that time, you will log into the portal and complete and submit your electronic oath form. If you don't see the email after 15 minutes or so after the webinar concludes, please log into your account and complete the form. Second, the instructions for completing the oath form are quite simple, and this is an easy step for you. And it must be done perfectly, so we'll go over these simple instructions a little slowly. And it's very much worth the extra few minutes here to help make sure you get this correct today. Finally, please know that missing anything on the form will delay your enrollment as a VISTA member, and it will delay your first living allowance payment. And since we are part of the federal payroll system, it could take weeks to correct that error. So again, this is a simple and brief task for you today, and it has a great deal of importance in your enrollment. So without further ado, here are the instructions. For the date of your first day of service at your project site, you will enter today's date in the month, day, year format, so 08/03/2020. For the name of the CNCS official who administered and witnessed the oath, enter Khadija Carr, just as it's spelled on the screen, Khadija, last name Carr, Carr. And you want to take note of that spelling to make sure that you type it correctly into your electronic oath form. In the electronic signature field, you will type your full and legal name, and this should match the full name that you used in the AmeriCorps application and is what's on file in my.americorps.gov. Then you will check the box under the electronic signature line to verify that this is a legal signature on the electronic oath form. Again, this is pretty straightforward, so please be sure to capture these details and have them handy when we log off today's webinar.
All right, thank you, Eric, for those logistics. Now that that is out of the way, let's consider the oath that you are about to take. So this is the same oath that are taken by all federal employees, including Eric and myself, up to and including the vice president. The president's oath is a little different. In the oath, it includes the phrase, "to defend the Constitution of the United States." When we say defend, this is not a call to arms. For some, in some positions, it may be. But for most of us, defense of the Constitution may just be the opposite of using arms, right? This is a pledge to defend the document that contains civil rights. This oath of service also includes the phrase, "against all enemies." And in the context of AmeriCorps VISTA, the enemy here is poverty. Here you can see the original oath on the left side of the slide, along with an alternate version on the right side of your screen. The alternative provides two distinct changes that you may prefer. So that first change you can see there is in red. And first you may replace that word swear with the word affirm if you so choose. And second, you may omit the phrase, "so help me God," at the very end of the oath if you choose. I do want to recognize that since we are all in different locations around the country, right, we're scattered in so many sites and so many locations, we don't have the benefit of hearing each other's voices as we recite this. But I do personally think it's pretty cool to know that there are 509 of you on this webinar that are doing the exact same thing at the same time all across America. It's a little awkward maybe if you're reciting the oath aloud in a room, right now alone, but please remember that we're all right here with you, right? We are doing this together. So at this time, you can raise your right hand and recite the oath along with me. And I'm going to read the alternative oath. I do solemnly affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter. Woohoo! You are officially a VISTA member. Congratulations. I hope you feel the energy and excitement I'm throwing your way. You are joining the newest group of AmeriCorps VISTA members. This is huge stuff. And as for the oath form, here's just a screenshot to see what it'll look like in the portal, right? This is the my.americorps.gov portal. The oath form, as we mentioned, it'll be available about 15 minutes after we log off this webinar today. And as a reminder, this oath is very, very important, and that form must be submitted with the correct information today. I just want to make sure, I know you all are super smart and everything, but we want to just make sure that we give you these correct details just really quickly. Here is a review of the electronic oath instructions. So first you're going to type today's date, right? Today is your official first day of AmeriCorps VISTA service. Congratulations again. So that'll be August 3rd, 2020. Next, you'll type in Khadija Carr, K-H-A-D-I-J-A, last name Carr, C-A-R-R, in the field labeled name of CNCS official who administered the oath. You'll then sign under AmeriCorps VISTA members e-signature, and then you're going to check the box under electronic signature. This constitutes that the e-signature is your legal signature on this electronic oath form. And finally, you're going to submit that oath no later than 11:59 p.m. your time today. Please note that you will not get a response confirming submission of the oath form. I mentioned there are 509 of you, so we are going to do our very best to reach out to those that don't appropriately fill out their form, but you will be able to see that the submitted oath is in your my.americorps.gov account. The VISTA Member Support Unit will contact you if they don't receive your oath form or if there are any corrections that are needed. I will say that a common mistake folks make is to enter their date of birth instead of today's date. So if you need to take a quick screenshot or anything of these quick tips here or reminders about the oath form, then go ahead and do that. And also know that this is included in the PowerPoint notes that were sent to you via email.
Well, with you officially sworn in, which we're really, really excited about, I echo Khadija's sentiments and I'm happy to have you on board as the newest AmeriCorps VISTA members. We have a few final agenda items to cover before we say farewell today. As a reminder, the VISTA campus has a couple of features that are designed to help VISTAs connect. I know we mentioned this quickly last week, but if you haven't done so already, check out the VISTA map and the VISTA forums. As you're getting settled into your service year, these are ways to reach out to your VISTA colleagues early and often. And speaking of reaching out and connecting, let's talk about identifying with your fellow VISTAs and the VISTA program overall. One of the greatest things about being part of AmeriCorps VISTA is showing off your VISTA pride and connecting with other VISTAs. You really never know where you may make a connection with someone who knows about the program. Some ideas are you can put the AmeriCorps VISTA logo on your business card if you have them, in your email signature, and on your organization's website and brochures. Because really, the more visible that you are, the more support that you may be able to get for your project and the AmeriCorps VISTA program as a whole. That means more VISTA members in communities doing the work that we need to get done. The helpful links handout that you received includes links to business card templates, publications, and gear that you can use in your office and represent VISTA in the field. During your year of service, you will receive instructions on how to order your free VISTA gear. The free gear includes a VISTA polo shirt, lapel pin, tote bag, t-shirt, water bottle, and a journal. The ordering instructions will be sent to your email, so please make sure that you keep your email address in my.americorps.gov up to date and accurate. And lastly, please share any service or training photos with VISTA headquarters and your fellow VISTA members through the VISTA Twitter and Facebook accounts, because we love to share your stories and retweet your photos.
And here is just another look at the resource list that you received last week. This is also available on the Starting VISTA page of the VISTA campus. So whether it's a question about sick leave or maybe healthcare benefits, your pay schedule or policy, this list will point you in the right direction. If you have any benefits questions, you can also contact the benefits administrator directly as indicated on that contact sheet. And looking a little further ahead as you settle into your VISTA year, be on the lookout for networks of current AmeriCorps members and alumni in your area. They may be organized by AmeriCorps programs or state commissions, and you can find contacts at AmeriCorpsAlums.org. Along with building your AmeriCorps network, there will also be a number of training opportunities this year to help you continue to develop professionally. And our training unit develops and delivers monthly webinars for VISTA members, VISTA leaders, and project supervisors and new sponsor staff as well. So be on the lookout for those on the VISTA campus webinars page. Next, I do want to point out some resources that may help you if you are teleserving full-time at the start of your service. On the VISTA campus, you can find a list of guides, videos, blogs, and articles that may be useful for you, especially if you're not accustomed to teleworking or teleserving full-time. We also do have a recorded webinar on demand that includes tips and tricks to telework successfully. You can find that on the member webinars page on the VISTA campus. The links to those pages on the VISTA campus are being posted in the chat right now as well. Alrighty, so we're getting closer to the end here. And I do want to mention our webinar evaluation. You should see that chat link, that link coming up in your chat rather, for a SurveyMonkey. Please take a few moments to give us some honest feedback on this webinar. We are constantly reviewing the content that we deliver and really trying to make sure that we can better serve our new VISTAs. So let us know how we can improve the presentation for future VISTA members. This is a very brief survey, so it'll only take a few moments. You can go ahead and get started on that now. And we do appreciate you sharing your feedback. If you are interested in taking the survey afterward, you should see that the link is appearing in your browser if you are joining us on a laptop or desktop computer as well. And we'll be sure to continue to post that link for folks. All right, so we have come to the Q&A block of our presentation here, and we'll take a few moments now to go over the answers to some of the questions that have been raised throughout the presentation. Okay. Let's see here. Eric, what are you seeing on your end?
I see a question earlier that came in around our discussion with everyone about capacity building in direct service and what happens if we are asked by our site to do something that falls under direct service. The easiest and simplest answer is to first talk with your supervisor and let them know that that activity seems to be direct service and is not appropriate for a VISTA member. If there's any questions or if they still want you to do it, then you would reach out to your CNCS state or regional office, preferably by email so it's in writing, just so they can communicate with you and your supervisor and make sure that you are only doing capacity building activities. But that's a good question, so thank you.
I would say another clarification there is that sometimes you'll find that you might need to engage in a direct service activity to better understand how you might transform it into a capacity building one. So it's really that the focus of your VISTA service or your VISTA year will be on capacity building and not direct service. So just keep that in mind as well as you are going throughout your year. See a question here asking about the VISTA gear that you mentioned, Eric, all of those nice freebies, including the water bottle and the journal. So you will receive an email with instructions for ordering this free VISTA gear. And that email will come in about a week or two. This email is going to be sent to the email that you have listed in your My AmeriCorps account. So again, please make sure that you have that up to date. I know that a few of you might have an email from, your former college days or something, and those don't always remain active after you've graduated. So make sure that you have an up-to-date email in there so that we can get you the gear that you need. Okay. So I see another question here about professional development, and it says, is there a limit on how many hours of VISTA service can be spent on trainings and professional development? So really my understanding of VISTA, at least in my experience, and in the bulk of your experiences, should be that your VISTA service really is all about professional development. There is no limit to it, as long as you're able in that process of being trained and learning, that you're also carrying out the duties listed in your VISTA assignment description.
And I see a really quick question that applies to everyone. We talked about it briefly last week, but it was how do we submit timesheets? Just remember that you would not submit those to VISTA headquarters. You would work with your VISTA supervisor and your project site to determine how they want you to submit timesheets. It could be on paper, it could be electronic, but in the list of questions that you're writing down for your supervisor today and this week, that's a good question for them, how they want the timesheets and how frequently they want you to submit those.
Alrighty, I'm seeing a question here about the oath of service. As we mentioned, you will not yet have access to that oath of service link in your My AmeriCorps portal. We're still, wrapping up with our webinar here. So once we've concluded, you will receive an email from us prompting you to go ahead and fill that oath of service out, right? We are appreciative of your eagerness to get that started, but we're not quite ready for you to fill that out. You'll receive that email about 15 minutes after we wrap up here. Let's see here. Seeing a question here asking about what a plan is best if you are still on your parents' insurance. So if you are on your parents' insurance, then that would be considered you having health insurance coverage, and you would then be eligible for what's called the VISTA healthcare allowance. This is something that will reimburse you for eligible healthcare expenses and not your parents, right? This is a benefit that is specifically for you. But we cannot legally give you advice as to which plan would be better for you. That is up to your assessment of your circumstances and which one you would choose. Are you seeing any additional ones there, Eric? I think I might have lost you, Eric.
Okay, I'm back. There was a quick related question about where do I go to get more information about healthcare. Remember, on the VISTA campus, but you can also go to AmeriCorpsVista.imglobal.com. I'll post that in the chat, but that's where you go if you have questions specifically for our health benefit administrator, or if there's anything else you need in relation to the healthcare coverage through AmeriCorps VISTA. And I'll answer one other quick question, which may apply to some people. We talked about capacity building and direct service, and some people were asking, can they do direct service on their own time? Yes, you can. Certainly, you're a VISTA technically 24/7, but you're obviously not expected to serve or work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But yes, on your own time, if you want to volunteer or do direct service separate from your VISTA position, that is very much okay.
And related to that question that was posed earlier about being covered under your parents' insurance, there are some of you that may turn 26 during your year of service. And the question really is, what do you do at that point when you turn 26 and will lose that coverage? So turning 26 will then be considered a special enrollment period because this is a qualifying life event. So based on this, this birthday, this 26 years of age, you will be allowed to enroll in a plan either on the marketplace where you can pick a plan and pay a monthly premium, where you can enroll in the healthcare allowance plan and help pay co-pays and co-insurance, or you can enroll in the VISTA health benefit. And this is not complete insurance coverage, and it doesn't cover pre-existing conditions. But again, it is completely free to you, and we'd recommend that prior to turning 26 that you notify the International Medical Group, or IMG, maybe about a month prior to turning 26, so that they're aware of the situation and you don't have any lapse in coverage if you don't want any. Let's see what else here. See a question about the oath asking if you need to enter your middle name. First and last name are okay there, but make sure that you are using the legal name that you've listed on your AmeriCorps application. So that is the name listed there as your name and not the preferred.
I see one question, or a couple of questions. There was confusion around VISTA service and about 1,700 hours. And we do want to clarify that as AmeriCorps VISTA members, you serve 365 days. It's based on calendar year. Some people I think are confused with AmeriCorps State and National. They only have to serve 1,700 hours and they're done. So with them, some of them are done in 10 or 11 months. But with AmeriCorps VISTA, the program that you're entering today, it is 365 days. So you start service today, August 3rd, 2020. You end service August 2nd, 2021. And it is full-time service for that 365 days. So hopefully that clarifies that.
Just throwing it back to last week's Countdown to VISTA, we learned that we are, as VISTAs, able to have part-time employment outside of VISTA service. This is employment that needs to be approved by your supervisor. It cannot interfere with any of your VISTA assignments or duties or any applicable law of the VISTA program or CNCS. In order to fill out that outside employment form, you'll need to access the VISTA campus to get that outside employment policy. And you can find that on the VISTA campus. Let's see here. Are you seeing any other questions that are generalizable here?
The final one I'll quickly answer, and there was a few other talking about personal and sick days, and this one is how can we use our personal days? Your personal days are however you want to use them. Just make sure that you let your supervisor know, and if you're using a couple of days in a row, it doesn't hurt to also let your CNCS state or regional office know, but your 10 personal days you can use however you want. Your 10 sick days are obviously only if you're sick or have a medical appointment or a doctor's visit, but all that information is in the VISTA member handbook.
All right, thanks for that, Eric. I see a question here asking about links to your on-site orientation and training. So I just want to remind folks that your on-site orientation and training, though it might be conducted remotely, is done by your specific project or your supervisor. So the VISTA program will not be providing the links for that. You'll need to reach out directly to your sponsoring organization or your supervisor. I see a question here asking for clarity around the clocking of hours. And yes, this is, again, one of those things that is tracked directly by your sponsoring organization. So you'll need to check in with your supervisor to find out exactly what the mechanism for tracking time and attendance will be at your specific organization. See a question here about where you can find your member ID or NSPID. So once you are in your myamericor.gov account, you should see that once you're on your home page, you'll see your name and your preferred name and all of your contact information. On that same screen, you will be able to access your NSPID number. And this is a number that you can use when you're applying for your healthcare benefits as well. Anything else here, Eric? I'm scrolling through and I'm not seeing anything generalizable here.
No, me neither. And thanks to Chris, Gina, and Kyle for getting through a lot of these questions for us.
All right, just giving it one quick scan to make sure I haven't missed anyone. All right, I think with that, we can go ahead and wrap up our Q&A. I'm not seeing any other questions that are for the good of the group. Thank you all for those questions. We do hope that your peers, your fellow VISTAs have given you much to think about and also answered some of the questions that may have been lingering for you. And we also hope that today's discussion helped you to build some new connections, maybe to clarify some of the complexity of starting your VISTA service, and also helped you to know where you can find information quickly. We've also officially sworn you in as VISTA members, so again, welcome. Eric and I are both AmeriCorps VISTA alums, so you are joining our family, and we are excited to have you as our siblings in the fight for against poverty. Before we depart today, I do want to leave you with just one more quote from President Johnson. And this was also shared at the launch of the VISTA program in 1964. On your idealism and on your success rests much of our hope for the final elimination of poverty in our American life. And to that, I would add that your service and commitment to community change as a VISTA member really gives me hope that the country can eliminate poverty and that the injustices that cause it will also be eliminated. Thank you all so much for agreeing to serve a year with AmeriCorps VISTA. And also thank you so much for your active participation on today's webinar. I wish you nothing but success in this world and in your VISTA service this year. This officially concludes today's presentation, and you may now disconnect.